Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. This was a better. Yeah, yeah. In the previous class, we talked about prehistory period as well as we started the topic of Indus Valley civilization, right? So, anything you would like to ask from last class, something you're not able to comprehend? Anyways, in today's class, we will complete Indus Valley civilization. As I was saying that this is perhaps the only topic where you have to uh, know about archaeological findings. बाकी जगहों पे archaeological finding पे तो question नहीं यूपीएससी पूछेगी. So even though archaeology remains a very important source for many other themes which we saw in the yesterday's class, but this is perhaps the only topic where you have to know the details of archaeological findings, especially let's say for example a profile of important cities that in Mohenjo-daro what do you find, in Harappa what do you find, in Dholavira what do you find, things like that. And apart from all these findings, there are some general conclusions which can be made about Indus Valley civilization. So I'm going to divide, first I will start with, let's say for example, the very first thing which Indus Valley civilization is known for is its urban features. Now what are those urban features? So Indus Valley civilization, जो भी cities हैं, they are known for a very well planned city infrastructure. Well planned in the sense, for example, I will give a few examples that roads generally crossed each other at 90 degree in most of the cities. जो house settlement है, for example, every house was connected to a proper water supply system as well as a proper water sewage system. So both things, water supply and water sewage. There are trash collection system which was very efficient. So they had lot of focus on hygiene. So hygiene and public infrastructure was very, very important for people of Indus Valley civilization. Another very important feature of urban feature will be that they were very conscious about their privacy. So for example, windows never opened towards the road. जो भी windows है that will open towards the housing settlement, not towards the main road. Nobody could actually see that what is happening from the roads. So very conscious, a serious, it actually seems like that they're very conscious about their privacy. So apart from that, cities generally have a two-tier structure. For example, there is a lower town, there is a upper town. So upper town contains citadel. That citadel may have inhabited elites and perhaps the ruling class of society. What type of ruling class was there? That is a very different question, which we do not have frankly an answer. But we have to assume that maybe the citadel was very important for the ruling class. That is another very interesting urban feature. Okay. They also knew a lot about technological advancement. So for example, we already talked about in last class that they knew metallurgical techniques, they knew how to develop. So for example, Indus Valley civilization is associated with bronze civilization, that people knew how to make bronze. So working with copper, tin, lead, bronze, all of these things are quite prominent during this period of time. However, iron is not known. This should be very clear, that iron is not known to people of Indus Valley civilization. We do not find any evidence of iron in this civilization, right? There are many other features also. For example, in last class I was mentioning that they use standardized weights, proper measurements, and ये हर city में करीब similar सा है. So that is also very important. In urban settlement, another very interesting feature is that they did not invest into large buildings like palaces or temples. All of those things are missing in Indus Valley civilization. So it does tell you, and at the same time they invested a lot into public infrastructure. So for example, you have this great bath, you have granaries perhaps to store grain when there is, let's say, drought. So public infrastructure is very, very important, but large temples and palaces they are not important. And this is very significant, frankly, because if you, we are going to talk about many other themes. For example, we are going to talk about Mauryas or Guptas, and even later kings. Kings often invested a lot into temples and palaces because they often wanted to attain authority. And how do you attain authority? By invoking gods, by invoking some sort of divine representation. And in fact, a lot of times kings themselves considered themselves to be God. So not just representative of God. So religion and politics has always has gone hand in hand. Like using religion as a tool to assert your authority as well as to mobilize people. That has been a feature throughout the history. So many kings and queens, they used religion as a tool to assert their authority over people. That we are protector of religion. We are protector of religious ideas. So, and that is why they invested a lot into temples and palaces, grand fortifications. We do not find such things in Indus Valley civilization. Another interesting thing, that they are religious people without any doubt. So for example, we find many mythical animals. Animals like unicorn is very popular. That we have found many seals which has image of unicorn, which clearly is a mythical animal. We also find seals with many other animals. Surprisingly, cow is missing. We do not find any seals with image of cow, but that does not mean that cattle is not known. Cattle is definitely very popular and it is known in the civilization. In fact, one of the important mode of transportation is bullock cart, जो अभी भी villages में दिख जाएगा आपको. So cattle is definitely there, but somehow cattle is missing. So anyways, coming to their religious ideas, that they are religious. For example, we saw in the last class this seal of Pashupati. They also worshipped a goddess which often has been called mother goddess, earth goddess, or fertility goddess. Fertility for more production of grain. So fertility goddess was perhaps very important for them. In some cases, we also find that jo grave hai, grave contained certain materialistic things. Again, similar idea that maybe these materialistic things will be useful for in the afterlife. But it is nothing compared to many other contemporary civilizations like Mesopotamian civilization or even earlier civilizations like Egyptian civilization. So even though they have some idea, they have some religious rituals associated with dead body. In fact, in some graves, we find luxury goods. So that does tell you some sort of social differentiation. But it's nothing compared to many other civilizations. So it does tell you that people are religious, but at the same time, ऐसा नहीं है कि उसके चक्कर में they are spending a lot of money. So, and another very interesting thing is that they have a very trade mindset. Trade is very, very important for them. Because same type of things which you find in graves of other civilizations, and we do know that they originated in Indus Valley civilization. So they knew the demand, and based on that demand they supplied it. They did not use it for themselves, but they supplied it to other civilizations. So these are quite smart people. They knew that how you have to grow your business. So these are some of the features of Indus Valley civilization, one aspect of it. Now let's come to the second aspect, that what type of administration we are talking about. I already told you in the last class that whatever information we think, it is based on speculation, it is based on some logical conclusions, but those logical conclusions does not have to be true exactly. So whatever we have found, based on that, historians have two debates. There are two strands of debates, that what type of polity was there. Without any doubt, all cities had a very efficient municipal governance system, right? But is it a pan-empire, like is it a pan-subcontinent empire that all of the cities are ruled by one grand power elite? And this city is very similar to today. For example, cities have their own administration, but at the same time, we belong to India as a nation. So is it a pan-empire, or at least many cities constituted one empire, and then you have different administration, different cities? Or is it independent administration of all the cities? All cities themselves are independent with each other, and the only relationship they have is movement of people because of perhaps trade or because of festivities or whatever, because of their cultural similarities. So we do find that many, almost all of the cities have very similar features. So that actually pinpoints that maybe it is a pan-empire. एक पूरा cities जो है एक empire का कोई part है. But many historians actually believe that this similarity may have actually existed because of trade relationship, because of movement of people, exchange of ideas. It is not because of that it was some sort of like grand kingdom and all of these cities are part of that kingdom. So this is a more accepted theory. But again, I will tell you that we have no way of knowing that, which theory is correct. Regarding social organization, so inequality is there, but it is not very apparent. So for example, even today we find inequality, huge inequality in the society. You have like very rich people and very poor people. So I can use the word that it is more egalitarian. I will not say that exactly it is an egalitarian society, but I can say that it is much more egalitarian compared to even today's society. So there is a upper town, there is a lower town in most of the cases, and lower town has very like similar type of structure. So there are definitely rich people and poor people, but the difference is not exactly as contrast as in later civilizations and even compared to what today we talk about, what today we see. So that will be about social organization. Regarding things like that, it's society patriarchal or matriarchal, that will be like taking a leap, taking a jump without any type of evidence. So for example, some people feel that fertility goddess is being worshipped. So not only gods are being worshipped, but goddesses are also being worshipped. So that may tell you that women have some significance in the society. But based on that, concluding that it is a matriarchal or it is a patriarchal, that will be a very difficult conclusion to make. So इसीलिए बहुत सारे questions जो है वो unanswered हैं. So that is another feature you should know. And last question which we should answer about Indus Valley civilization is एक कल्चरल हिस्ट्री का जो एस्पेक्ट है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल डिटेल्स अबाउट द स्कल्पचर ट्रेडिशन और हाउ सील्स वेयर मेड एंड विच आर द इम्पॉर्टेंट सेंटर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, दैट विल बी डिस्कस्ड इन आर्ट एंड कल्चर क्लासेस, डू नॉट वरी. सो जो कल्चरल एस्पेक्ट है, इनफैक्ट दैट विल बी द फर्स्ट टॉपिक ऑफ आई थिंक आर्ट एंड कल्चर, studying about culture of Indus Valley civilization. But anyways, the last question which we should answer is that what happened to this prosperous civilization that for more than 700 years it was a prosperous civilization, and suddenly, not suddenly exactly, but we do find that cities were deserted after about 1900 BC, and by 1700 BC all cities are deserted. So what happened to that civilization? Now that question has been a very politically sensitive question. So initially one of the theory was that horse riding tribe, which is in fact a warrior tribe, came from Central Asian steppe known as Aryans, and Aryans attacked people of Indus Valley civilization. Now these people, even though there are some fortification for citadel, for example in the last class I told you that citadel was fortified, but they did not invest enough into having, let's say for example, a standing army or a lot of defensive or offensive preparation to protect themselves from any type of invasion. It may have been because they felt that they are protected. It's also may have because they may have realized that geography is so complex that nobody is in fact going to invade. We do not know the reasons that why is it so, why they did not invest enough into their defensive capabilities, and they definitely never went for any type of offense to any other civilization. That part is also true. So the theory was that Aryans came to India, invaded, and because of that civilization perished. Now this became a very politically contentious question because this theory was popularized when Britishers were ruling India, and many nationalist historians felt that it does not have lot of basis. So the theory was that now people of Indus Valley civilization went southward, went eastward, and they settled into these territories. So in fact, the southward migration hai, that led to Dravidians. So a lot of this entire debate regarding Aryans versus Dravidians, that Dravidians are original settlers of Indus Valley civilization and Aryans are foreigners. So that became a very contentious issue for many people in India, that this is a further attempt by Britishers to create division in the society, and frankly it does not have lot of basis. But despite criticism, this theory was very popular for many years. As of now, this theory has been rejected by almost all of the historians that Aryan invasion occurred. ये theory कोई भी accept नहीं करता है अभी कि invasion जो है वो कुछ invasion हुआ है and somebody came and attacked, because जैसे last class में I told you about population genetics as a important source of history, and population genetics does tell you that जो हमारे ancestral North Indians हैं या ancestral South Indians हैं, both of them owe their ancestry to people of Indus Valley civilization. That anywhere in India there is a certain percentage of genetic similarity, because we have found many skeletons in, for example, Rakhi Gari mein skeletons humko mile, and we have done genetic analysis of those skeletons, and we have tried to understand the similarities, genetic similarities in people of North India and South India, and we do come to a conclusion that both North Indians and South Indians owe their lineage, owe their ancestry to people of Indus Valley civilization, at least in fact a significant part of it. So this entire division of Aryan and Dravidian frankly is not a very good division, right? वैसे एक चीज और आपको ये पता चलता है कि ये जो डिबेट्स होते हैं that someone is an outsider and we have like more we are more Indian than compared to someone else. Such type of debates frankly does not make sense, because if you study history, you realize that entire history is history of migration. People have been migrating from one place to another place at every instance of time. And just because you migrated 200 years ago compared to someone else's, and you are claiming that this land belongs more to you compared to someone else's. So, lot of times such debates are very much political. They are not academic debates, frankly. But a lot of times these are political debates. And political parties do use them for their own benefit. So anyways, the most accepted theory right now is that the civilization declined because of climate change. And climate change may have occurred because of two things. First, lot of tectonic movement may have led to change of river course. For example, the Indus river course may have changed. And that may have led to flooding in certain cities. And at the same time, जैसे when you study geography class अभी हुई है, in geography आपको geological age के बारे में पढ़ाएंगे कि geological age का क्या मतलब होता है. तो जो पूरा का पूरा history of earth है, it can be divided into eons. Those eons will be divided into eras will be divided into epochs will be divided into ages. Like one eon will have era, one era will have epochs, and one epoch will have many ages. Now we do find that there is an age called Meghalayan age, which starts around 2000 BC. And the reason we say this as an Meghalayan age is because Meghalaya mein jo caves hain, they have like proper evidence of this age. And we do find that there is a significant drought occurred in many parts of the world. And because of that drought, not exactly simultaneously, that drought went on for many, many years, hundreds of years. And because of this drought, many civilizations perished, not only Indus Valley civilization. For example, we do know that Mesopotamian civilization had already perished while Indus Valley civilization was prospering. We also know that Chinese civilization, again, China is a civilizational state. It has a great civilizational history, very similar to India. So, however, Chinese civilization also perished around at the same point of time. So, drought may have occurred, and that drought in fact led to drying of the river Saraswati, as well as in some cases flooding may have occurred, changing of river course pattern occurred, and because of that agricultural productivity declined, and now agriculture is not enough to feed a larger population of urban areas. I told you in the last class, without agricultural surplus, you cannot even imagine urbanization, you cannot imagine these grand kingdoms or grand empires. Agricultural surplus is sine qua non of any type of civilizational setup. So because of that, people may have shifted to eastward, people may have shifted to southward, and when Aryans came to India, maybe there is some population, and we have to assume that some sort of conflict must have occurred. That goes without saying, that is human nature, that someone has come from outside. Some sort of conflict definitely may have occurred. But that conflict cannot be called invasion. That because we do not find any type of, let's say for example, हमको कहीं पे कोई अगर invasion होता तो हमको large scale ऐसे dead bodies मिलते, skeletons मिलते, हमको कहीं पे कुछ भी नहीं मिलता इस type का evidence. Whatever skeleton we find, we do find that these are natural deaths, these are scattered, this has nothing to do with any type of attack. So when Aryans came to India, they may have of course, and I'm going to talk about Aryans in today's class itself, so they may have seen lot of settlements, they may have seen indigenous people. Again, I will use the word original, I will not use the word original settlers, but I will use the word early settlers, that they may have seen early settlers in this part of the country, and it definitely may have led to some sort of conflict, but that conflict, using the term invasion, will not be correct. So this is the most accepted theory as of now, that it occurred mainly because of climate change, right? So let's discuss all of this, let's write down all of these things one by one. Hanji. That is a very good point. So what he's saying is that we can say that because he's saying that these are trading communities, and trade with many other contemporary civilization, let's say Mesopotamia, was very, very important. So trade declined, and because of that economic prosperities of cities may have declined, and because of that maybe perhaps they will not be able to invest into, let's say, agricultural production. So yes, that can also be a reason that many contemporary civilizations had declined, and trade was a very important part of economic activity. But again, all of these will be based on like these are logical conclusions, but logical conclusions do not have to be necessarily true. Logic has its own limitation. So anyways, write down few things. Indus Valley civilization, the remnant of civilization was discovered by, the remnant of civilization was discovered by Alexander Cunningham, who was Director General of Archaeological Survey of India, Director General of Archaeological Survey of India, Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. In fact, Alexander Cunningham, I'm writing it. देखो वैसे तो बहुत सारे मटेरियल में आपको दिखेगा कि जो सिविलाइजेशन, फॉर एग्जांपल, हु स्टार्टेड डिगिंग ऑफ हड़प्पा, हु स्टार्टेड डिगिंग ऑफ मोहनजोदारो, who started digging of Dhaulavira. So you'll find all of these different names. I do not feel that for every important city you should go and remember that who is the person responsible for starting the digging of that civilization. But there are few names which you should know. For example, Alexander Cunningham is a very important name. You can also write down the next bullet point. In 1924, a formal announcement of a new civilization. A formal announcement of new civilization was done by John Marshall. So formal announcement in the sense that we have discovered a new civilization. Right, so these two names are very important, of course. Digging of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, as well as many other sites, that was done by different set of people. Anyways, give this heading, features of Indus Valley civilization. Features of Indus Valley civilization. And I'm going to divide this into certain subheadings. This is the main heading. The first subheading is urban infrastructure. Urban infrastructure. Write down in bullet points. Many cities in Pakistan, such as Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and similarly in India, such as Dhaulavira, Kalibangan, Rakhigari, Lothal, Kalibangan, Rakhigari, Lothal, etc. are found right on next bullet point. Both Harappa and Mohenjo-daro Online students, please don't do random murmur on the response portal. I do not tolerate murmuring in the class. I'm not going to tolerate random statements. Tell them, if you have a question, send the question to classroom coordinator. If I'm asking a question, use the response portal to answer question. Do not write random statements. If you have any question, please send the question to classroom coordinator. ये जो random conversation आपके आपस के होते हैं, please don't do that. Anyways, write down. Both Harappa and Mohenjo-daro have featured citadels. Featured citadels. A central area in the city. A central area in the city that was fortified. Apart from that, Lower Town is found in both these cities. Lower Town has been found in both of these cities. Which may have been inhabited by common populace. Which may have been inhabited by common populace. Which may have been inhabited by common populace. Common populace means common people. Which may have been inhabited by common populace. यही पे मैं बता देता हूँ एक चीज. Dholavira has a 3-tier structure. A very important distinguishing feature of Dholavira compared to other cities such as Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. It is also one of the most developed and one of the largest settlements of Indus Valley civilization. Anyways, write down next bullet point. Lot of investment occurred into public infrastructure. Lot of investment occurred into public infrastructure. Lot of investment occurred into public infrastructure. For example, public baths, granaries, etc. So public bath, we do find public bath in Mohenjo-daro, for example. And what purpose it served? One theory is that it may have some sort of religious significance, some ritualistic significance. We frankly do not know if that is correct or not. Granaries as a storehouse of grain, especially when there is a drought or when agricultural produce is not enough. Write down the next bullet point. People of IVC were very conscious about hygiene and cleanliness. Just simply hygiene will be enough. People of IVC were very conscious about hygiene. For example, we find well-ordered wastewater drainage system. Well-ordered wastewater drainage system. Well-ordered wastewater drainage system. Trash collection system. Trash collection system. The water supply line, write down, the water supply line was different from sewage system. In fact, the difference is quite apparent that sewage और water का कोई भी linkages नहीं होगा. So any type of, so for example, the normal water supply है, that is very, very different from whatever is wastewater from household. Write down next bullet point. People are conscious about privacy. People were conscious about privacy. People were conscious about privacy. For example, windows never opened to the side of road, हाँ जी. No, definitely there. So for example, जो fortification जो भी structure है, let's say for example, so they had doors also. Why without doors? How can you imagine a house? The doors were no, that will be so again both doors. Correct statement will be both doors and windows जो है that open not towards the side of road. But saying that they did not have doors, that will not be correct. But at the same time, this should be very clear that doors and windows, both of them did not open to the road, and that does tell you that a consciousness about their privacy. Right on next bullet point. हाँ जी. It's a very popular term, that's why. So Harappan civilization his question is that why I'm mentioning IVC again and again, because it has been much more popular in literature. Even though, so for example, the reason I told you in the last class, the reason we do not use Indus Valley civilization is because many cities are actually situated at the river Saraswati. So even Saraswati civilization will not be a correct word because many of them are situated at Indus. In fact, many cities are not either at Indus or at Saraswati. So both are not correct nomenclature. But because first set of cities were situated around Indus or its tributaries, it became a very popular word, and even today it is a very popular word. However, many historians now use Harappan civilization, given the fact that Harappa was the first city which was discovered, and it is also one of the largest settlement which is found of Indus Valley civilization. Right on, roads crossed each other at right angles. Roads crossed each other at right angle. Right angle. And एक last point इसमें लिख लेना. Indus Valley IVC, people of IVC did not invest into grand palaces or temples. Grand palaces or temples. Grand palaces and temples. Even though great public infrastructure is found at many of the settlements. Great public infrastructure has been found at many of the settlements. Many of the settlements. Give the next heading. Technology and innovation of Indus Valley civilization. Technology and innovation. हाँ जी. Why did they? Sorry. No. So I'm exactly saying the opposite. So for example, जो भी housing settlement है. So let's say for example, this is a settlement, you have houses here, and this represents here road. This is the road side. So windows will open to this side, not, or for example, even houses here, windows will open to this side, but not towards the right. That is what I am saying. The windows and doors, they will not open towards the road side. They will open to this side. So not towards the, that is what I am saying, that they are very conscious about their privacy. Like, doubt क्या आपका इसमें? What is your question here? Why will they? वॉल क्यों करेंगे? वॉल तो रखना ही पड़ेगा ना, एक साइड तो वॉल तो होना ही चाहिए. I'm not able to understand your question. So what? So for okay, ठीक है. So anyways, the point was very simple that they are very conscious about their privacy. Write down in bullet points. Guys, what is this? Write down in next bullet point. They used great accuracy in their systems and tools. They used great accuracy in their systems and tools for measuring length and mass. They used great accuracy in their systems and tools for measuring length and mass. Across all settlements, इसी point में across all settlements, we find standardized weights and measures. We find standardized weight and measures. Across all settlements, we find standardized weights and measures. So for example, in fact, the standardized weight and measures, and that is in the numerical of 2. Like, so for example, 2, 4, 6, 8, ऐसे मिलेगा आपको. So not exactly the kg or gram which we are using, but it does tell you that people are using a proper standard weight system. And it is, and by the way, this another interesting thing is that this standardized weight is very similar across all settlements. ऐसा नहीं कि cities के अपने अपने कुछ खुद के ideas हैं. These standardized weights and measurements are very similar across many settlements. Write down next bullet point. Fire-baked bricks were used for construction. Fire-baked bricks were used for construction. Fire-baked bricks were used for construction, which were also moisture resistant. Many of this structure had survived thousands of years. Many of this structure had survived thousands of the years. So that actually is a testimony of what type of technology we are talking about. Just a Lothal guy in last class, I showed you the remnant of Lothal as a city. And look at this uniformity in the construction and the fact that these bricks have survived even today. Right on next bullet point. Harappans are known for seal carving. Harappans are known for seal carving. It included cutting of patterns into the bottom face of a seal, It was used for stamping. Such as identification of property, comma, stamping clay on trade goods, stamping clay on trade goods, stamping clay on trade goods. इसी में एक पॉइंट लिख लेना, seals decorated with animal figures, seals decorated with animal figures such as elephants, tigers, water buffaloes, tigers, water buffaloes have been discovered in many cities. have been discovered in many cities. Write down the next bullet point. IVC is considered a Bronze Age society. IVC is considered a Bronze Age society people had developed new techniques in metallurgy. People had developed new techniques in metallurgy. And knew the science of working with. People had developed new techniques in metallurgy and knew the science of working with copper, bronze, lead and tin. Copper, bronze, new techniques in metallurgy and knew the science of working with copper, bronze, lead and tin. So, apart from remembering all the names, a more important fact here will be that iron is not part of the civilization. That will be a more important fact compared to remembering the name of metals. In fact, in many cases you can use this as a tool to remember things. That things which are part of a particular list, but at the same time something which is not part of the list. And something which ideally, let's say for example, if you do not know about that particular topic, then you may get confused. Aapko, jaise for example, I will give you a very simple example. Let's say if I ask you that which are the member nations of SAARC grouping. So apart from remembering all the names, you should also remember that Myanmar is not a member. Myanmar is a member of ASEAN nations. So often it may be confusing because you will feel that Myanmar, because it is an immediate neighbor of India, it should also be part of SAARC grouping. तो इस तरीके की चीजें याद रखना इस तरीके से काफी बहुत बार यूजफुल होगा. That apart from which is something which is in the list and all the things which are in the list, something which ideally should be, or if you do not know, then you may get confused. So try to remember that something which is not in the list, and it can be used across many subjects. आप जैसे जैसे आप पढ़ोगे, you will realize that it will be, this idea is very useful in remembering lot of stuff. Write down the next bullet point. Yeah, give the heading economy. Economy of Indus Valley Civilization. Write down. Harappans participated in a vast maritime sea trade network. Harappans participated in a vast maritime sea trade network. Maritime sea trade network extending from Central Asia to West Asia. Extending from Central Asia to West Asia. Extending from Central Asia to West Asia. The trade was facilitated by major advancements in transport technology. The trade was facilitated by major advancements in transport technology. Trade was supported by major advancements in transport technology. This claim is supported by, write down, this claim is supported by discovery of many boats. This claim is supported by discovery of many boats, docking facilities at coastal cities. This claim is supported by discovery of boats, comma, docking facilities at coastal cities. Docking facilities. डॉकिंग फैसिलिटी एट कोस्टल सिटीज, इसको डॉकयार्ड्स जिनको हम बोलते हैं, जैसे लोथल में यू फाइंड डॉकयार्ड. राइट डाउन नेक्स्ट बुलेट पॉइंट. हड़प्पन्स engaged in shell working. Hadappans engaged in shell working. So in fact, those shells which were produced in Harappa, they have been found in many other locations of the world. Most prominently in Oman, for example. Oman में हमको बहुत सारे shell मिलते हैं जो craft tradition of shell working है. That is, many remnants of that is found in Oman. Right on next bullet point. The most important traded goods fair. The most important traded goods fair. Minerals from Iran and Afghanistan. Minerals from Iran and Afghanistan. Lead and copper from other parts of India. Other part of India, comma, gold, silver, pearls, and colored gemstones. Gold, silver, pearls, and colored gemstones. Gemstones such as lapis lazuli, Now, especially remember this name. Lapis lazuli is a blue colored gemstone. If you like, go and Google it, you will find the image of lapis lazuli, what I'm talking about, that will be very clear. So it's a blue colored gemstone known for its beauty, and lapis lazuli was very famous in Harappa. So Harappans, by the way, we do not have found any type of coinage system. So a very accepted theory is that they may have used barter system of exchange. But apart from barter system, so for example, lot of golds and silver, if it was exchanged not as a coinage, but as a form of barter. And as a form of barter was also perhaps lapis lazuli. That if they are trading something, they will get lapis lazuli. This is one of the luxurious items which was used by people of Harappan civilization. In general, it has been a very popular stone throughout the history. The lapis lazuli stone hai, it has been popular throughout the history. Write down. Next bullet point. Yeah, give the heading, society. Society. So when I use the word society, it can mean a lot of things. For example, it can mean what type of religious beliefs we are talking about, what type of cultural ethos we are talking about, right? So it includes a lot of what type of practices we are talking about. So you can mention few things. The script of Indus Valley remains undeciphered. And because of that, coming to certain conclusions is difficult. Based on archaeological findings, following can be deciphered. deciphered. Write down in sub-bullet points. Harappans worshipped a mother goddess who symbolized fertility. Harappans worshipped a mother goddess who symbolized fertility. There are no dedicated temples. There are no, in next bullet point, next sub-bullet point, there are no dedicated temples or specific deities. Specific deities. Deities, gods. Deities means any type of god-like feature. Deities. Deities is plural of deity. Write down in next sub-bullet point. Many seals have image of mythical animals. Image of mythical animals such as unicorn, comma, half human, half buffalo, half human, half buffalo. They may signify some sort of religious belief. Some sort of religious belief. Some sort of religious belief. Write down next bullet point. In the next point. Not in sub-bullet point, but in next bullet point. Write down. What type of power structure existed in society? What type of power structure existed in society? What type of power structure? Are you all right? What happened? Do you want to go outside for some time? What type of power structure existed in society? Is not known. Is not known. There are two theories regarding political setup. There are two theories regarding political setup. Political setup. First, a single state existed encompassing the entire civilization. This is supported by similarity in artifacts, planned settlements, similarity in artifacts, planned settlements, standard ratio of brick size, etc. Planned settlements, standard ratio of brick size, etc. Standard ratio of brick size, etc. The second theory is The second theory is etc. Standard ratio bricks. The second theory is, please write faster. The second theory is that there was no single ruler. The second theory is that there was no single ruler. All urban centers were represented by different leaders. So this is more accepted theory. आप लिख सकते हो. This is more accepted theory. This is more accepted theory. Write down next bullet point. Society was more equal. Society was more equal compared to other contemporary. Society was more equal compared to other contemporary. Society was more equal compared to other contemporary as well as civilizations which preceded IVC. Civilizations which preceded IVC. So I told you that we will not say that it is exactly equal, but it is much more egalitarian. We use the word egalitarian for such type of setup, but there is not a huge inequality which exists in the society. And give the last heading, decline of civilization. Decline of civilization. Hanji. Food habits, for example, we do find, जैसे initially one of the theory was that they are very much dependent upon plant-based crops, but many recent findings have pointed out that they ate lot of meat. Meat was a very, very important part of their diet. And by the way, this is a very, very new discovery. Like in last 2 years, I remember reading an article, some findings which found out that animals were killed on a larger scale. So animals killing for food versus animals dying naturally, you can actually understand the difference depending by analyzing their bones and other things. So we do find that large scale killing of animals occurred, and they, in fact, jo meat hai, that was a very important part of their diet. Before that, the accepted theory was that jo crops and plant-based food hai, that was more important part of diet. Regarding their clothing, for example, again, clothing will be part of it. It will be discussed in art and culture classes a lot, but coming to certain conclusions regarding clothing will be very, very difficult. However, at the same time, we can say that society was very liberal in the sense, for example, as such, women के clothing को लेके कुछ ऐसा restriction हमको नहीं दिखता है, right? People have to cover their body, that goes without saying, but at the same time, society is much more liberal even compared to today's standards. So, but at the same time, like this will be based on archaeological findings. So coming to certain conclusions will be a very difficult thing. What about? पॉलिटीज अभी हमने डिस्कस किया था ना कि वो जो हमने लास्ट पॉइंट लिखा है वो पॉलिटी का ही है, जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सेटअप है वो जो लास्ट पॉइंट है वो पॉलिटी का ही है, बिकॉज इससे ज़्यादा आपको कर पाना बहुत मुश्किल है. दैट इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, दैट मोर देन दिस coming to certain conclusions regarding political setup will be a very difficult, right? Regarding art, I told you that it will be discussed in art and culture classes. So anyways, decline, initially I will repeat, the theory was that it occurred because of Aryan invasion, but now this theory has been rejected by most of the historians. The most accepted theory is that it occurred because of climate change. You can mention it. One theory suggested that a nomadic Indo-European tribe called Aryans, Aryans invaded and conquered Indus Valley civilization. Invaded and conquered Indus Valley civilization. However, recent evidences do not support this claim. Recent evidences do not support this claim. Do not support this claim. The most accepted theory is civilization perished because of climate change. Civilization perished because of climate change. Drying of Saraswati River. Drying of Saraswati River, comma, changing of river course because of tectonic movements, changing of river course because of tectonic movements, and change in monsoon pattern turned out to be disastrous for urban settlements. Turned out to be disastrous for urban settlements. Write down next bullet point. Decline in agricultural productivity. Decline in agricultural productivity, comma, decline of trade with contemporary civilizations. Decline of trade with contemporary civilizations. Decline of trade with contemporary civilizations. Decline of trade with further turned out to be reasons for the decline of civilization. Reasons for decline of civilization. By 1700 BC, reasons for decline of civilization. By 1700 BC, most of the cities were abandoned. Most of the cities were abandoned. Most of the cities were abandoned. So, for example, I told you that mature phase ka jo time period hai, that is from 2600 BC to 1900 BC. So the process of deserting cities may have occurred as, it may have started occurring as early as 2000 BC, and for next few hundred years that process continued. At by 1700 BC all of the cities are deserted, and now you do find, however, there is a continuity here. ऐसा नहीं है कि अचानक से सब कुछ खत्म. There is a continuity here, that similar type of artifacts, however, belonging to rural settlements, not urban settlements, is found for next few hundred years. And from 1900 BC to 1300 BC, जो late phase of Harappan civilization है, that is again a rural settlement. So early phase, I discussed that early Harappan civilization, mature and late phase. Early and late are rural settlement, mature is urban settlement. Last topic, which I'm not going to make you write, I will get this, I think this handout already has been uploaded, or it will be uploaded after today's class. That profile of major cities, this is also important for prelims examination especially. That which are the major cities, and some important features which you should remember from these cities. For example, let's say Harappa. Now, Harappa was the first city which was discovered, and Harappa is located on the banks of Ravi. ये भी पता होना चाहिए जो major cities हैं कौन से river के around located हैं, that should be also very clear. So it is located on the banks of river Ravi. I hope I can zoom it. And I also told you that railway engineers found bricks which were carted off for construction of railways in 19th century by Britishers. So that is why, even though despite being one of the largest settlement, one of the major cities, Harappa जो है, we are not able to find lot of information about civilization from Harappa. So the second city which was discovered, I'm really sorry, but I'm not able to zoom in. But don't worry, this handout will be uploaded on your student portal. I'm just showing you this handout that what are the important bullet points you have to remember from here. So for example, Mohenjo-daro, we do find things like Great Bath or the Citadel, ये जो higher town है. It is now located on the banks of Indus River. So Mohenjo-daro जो है, that is located on the banks of Indus River and famous for lot of things. For example, Great Bath, Granary, Unicorn Seal, Dancing Girl statue जो हमने last class में discuss किया था, Pashupati Seal. अच्छा, another very important steatite statue of a bearded man. Lot of times ये जो एक statue है, that is called philosopher king. So there is a, for example, I told you that ruling class के बारे में हमको बहुत clarity नहीं है. So we do find a statue of a bearded man from Mohenjo-daro, and lot of archaeologists and historians have used the term philosopher king for him, that he may belong to some sort of ruling arrangement. But again, that is only just an opinion. Okay, Dhaulavira. Dhaulavira was recently inducted in UNESCO World Heritage Site. In fact, it has become the first city as part of UNESCO World Heritage Site. If anything, so UNESCO World Heritage Site in itself is a very important topic for you for prelims examination. You can have three types of sites. Sites which have cultural significance, sites which have environmental significance, and sites which have both cultural and environmental significance. So बहुत बार जो temples and mosques and grand architectures, they will be sites of cultural significance, and many national parks are sites of environmental significance, right? Kanchenjunga, for example, has both cultural as well as environmental significance. That is one only mixed heritage site. So any site which is part of UNESCO World Heritage Site, you should know that, you should know about its history. So Dhaulavira is the first city which has been inducted in this list. It is located in Rann of Kutch, Gujarat. Very famous for its efficient water management system, a giant water reservoir, which is actually, this picture is given here. And it is the only city which has been divided into three parts. I told you in the last class also that apart from castle, there is also a middle town and then there is a lower town. And it also has dams and embankments. Banwali, again a very, very important site. Banwali, especially to know about the agriculture of civilization. It is in Haryana. Achha, by the way, location. Agar something is in Pakistan, फिर आपको province जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Just remembering this fact that it is in Pakistan is more than enough. If it is in India, you should know which state. And if it is located around a river, then you should also know the river. And third thing which you should know is that what are the major archaeological findings from these sites. Major, only the most important one. बहुत छोटे छोटे, for example, कुछ हमको टेराकोटा फिगरीन्स मिले हैं, इतना डिटेल में नहीं जानना, बट टेराकोटा फिगरीन अगर कुछ बहुत स्पेसिफिक रेफरेंस है उसका, दैट यू शुड नो. So well planned fortified township, but a very interesting thing here is that most of the town is in rectangular pattern, cutting each other at 90-degree angle. This is in radial pattern. जैसे जो आप अगर Connaught Palace जाओगे, क्या circles हैं, there are three circles, inner circle, middle circle and outer circle, and then there are this radial pattern which exists. So most of the city is in rectangular pattern, and this is in radial pattern, right? So are different type of urban settlement. These are in fact two most famous type of urban settlements which exist anywhere in the world. And one example of Indus Valley civilization will be Banwali, that it is an example of radial type of settlement. And very important thing is that many barley grains have been found at this site, as well as a terracotta plough model, so that does signify the relevance of agriculture in civilization. Shurkotara, very famous, it is in Gujarat, coastal city, but most important feature of Surkotara is that horse bones have been found from this site. So horses are not a very prevalent animal without any doubt. Also, Indian climate does not allow like horses to exist naturally here. So we have to assume here that horses were brought from outside as part of trade perhaps. Of course, in later, when Aryans came to India, many horses also came to India and horses became very integral to Indian mainland. But as part of Indus Valley civilization, horses are not the most important animals. Lothal is another very important site, known two things. It has a dockyard, port city, dockyard, and very famous for its fire altar. And it also has, by the way, another very interesting thing is that a chess-like game has been found at the Lothal. Not exactly chess, but a chess-like game has been found at Lothal. Kalibangan is in Rajasthan. It literally translates to black bangle, Kalibangan. Known for again fire altars. Fire altars, Lothal and Kalibangan दोनों जगह मिलता है हमको. So known for fire altar, camel bones. Evidence of earthquake is also found here. Chanudaro. Chanudaro is very, very famous for bangle factory. That Chanudaro, it is in Pakistan, and very famous for bangle factory. And bangles from this location is found in many other parts of the many other cities as well as other parts of the world. Amri is a site again in Pakistan. Evidence of antelope and rhinoceros is found here. Now this is a very, very important site, Shortugai. Shortugai is very far away from, and I will show you on map where Shortugai is. Shortugai is a trading outpost of Harappan civilization near Oxus River. Oxus River flows through Afghanistan, very famously known as Amu Darya River also. So it is a trading outpost, not exactly a proper civilizational setup, but a trading outpost which belongs to Harappan civilization. So it is also an isolated site far, far away from other settlements. So very, very important site, Shortugai. Apart from that, there are few other names known for just like one feature. For example, Manda jo hai. Manda is northernmost site of IVC located in Jammu and Kashmir. But if both Manda and Shortugai is given together, then answer will be Shortugai. So Shortugai is not a proper town settlement. It is a trading outpost that people have made their trading outpost very, very far away. So if both Manda and Shortugai is given, the answer will be Shortugai. But proper jo city settlement hai, that is Manda. Malwan is southernmost site located in Surat, Gujarat. Sukta Gindor, this is westernmost site located at Makran coast of Pakistan. Alamgirpur, easternmost site of civilization in Uttar Pradesh. Rangpur, located in Gujarat, important for rice cultivation. Manda is again in Jammu and Kashmir, sorry, already there rakha hai. And Kot Diji is located in Pakistan, opposite to Mohenjo-daro. It is also on the bank of Indus, opposite to Mohenjo-daro. So just to give you a brief, like let me show you the map again, so that it becomes very clear what I am discussing here. Okay, so I was talking about Shortugai. Shortugai is near Oxus River, very popularly also known as Amu Darya River in Afghanistan, and very far away from other settlements. So this is actually a trading outpost of Indus Valley civilization. I was talking about Kot Diji, exactly opposite to Mohenjo-daro, right? So Mohenjo-daro on one side of Indus River, another side of Indus River is Kot Diji. You have Kalibangan, Harappa on the river, Ravi. You have Dhaulavira here, Lothal here. Ropar is also a site. Banwali is a site in Haryana. Right, so these are some important sites which you should know and why they are famous for. So this is perhaps the only topic where archaeological findings is important for prelims examination. No, why do we have to study separately Indus Valley civilization? Agriculture ka jo part hai. For example, we do know lot of type of crops like rice, cotton, barley. All of those were important crops as part of Indus Valley civilization. So agriculture, without any doubt, is a very integral part of IVC sites. इसके लिए अलग से कुछ class की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Let's take a break here. After the break, we will talk about the next theme of ancient history, which is Vedic age. I have not forgotten about Chalcolithic culture. Do not worry, I will discuss that. वो छोटा सा टॉपिक है, बीच में कभी भी थोड़ा हमारे पास टाइम होगा, we will discuss that. Don't worry. There is another topic which belongs to prehistoric period. To understand about prehistoric period is type of pottery. What type of pottery people used. That also has in fact lot of significance. So we will discuss pottery culture also along with Chalcolithic culture. There was a question by UPSC which was asked in I think 2014. Write down this question. Write down this question. To what extent has the urban planning and culture of Indus Valley civilization provided inputs to the present day urbanization? Discuss. To what extent has the urban planning and culture of Indus Valley civilization provided inputs to the present day urbanization? Discuss. There are type of questions which UPSC asks, and I'm really a big fan of such type of questions because these are very analytical questions. They cannot be called factual questions, frankly. And answer to such questions ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको exactly book में ऐसे मिल जाएगा, आपने कोई book पढ़ा है या notes पढ़ा है. Whatever information you know, you have to use that information in a way that you fulfill the demand of the question. जैसे there is a question, Anusha has now second time she is mentioning, I think. There is a question UPSC did ask in 2015 that the ancient civilization in Indian subcontinent differed from those of Egypt, Mesopotamia and Greece in that its culture and traditions have been preserved without a breakdown to the present day. Comment. That was a question of 12.5 marks. You had to write 200 words. I will repeat the question. The civilization of India differed from Egypt, Mesopotamia and Greece in that its culture and traditions have been preserved without a breakdown to the present day. Comment. That was the question. So again, this is a question, by the way, I remember this statement has directly been picked from a very famous book called The Wonder That Was India by A.L. Basham. Again, you do not have to read it for UPSC because it's a very huge, humongous book, and art and culture has a very small section of your syllabus. So art and culture के लिए वैसे बहुत amazing book है. In general, if you have cleared the examination, if you have some free time, you should definitely read that book, The Wonder That Was India. Even if you have read that book, you will not be able to answer this question because this is a statement given in one of the introductory pages and it has not been explained per se that what are the elements of continuity in Indian civilization. वो आपको तभी के तभी सोचना है और तभी के तभी आंसर करना है. So I really like such type of questions which are not based on rote learning. You have to do some analysis and you have to answer it. Let's discuss both of these questions. For example, what will you write in this question which I have mentioned? कैसे लिखोगे इसको? And I should also tell you that this is not a properly framed question, but ठीक है, doesn't matter. UPSC ने जल्दी में बनाया question है. It's not a very properly framed question, but फिर भी what will you write here? Okay, hygiene, okay. Plant settlement, okay. So first, for example, rather than telling me like one point or something like that, just give me a structure, that how you are going to structure. I do not want exact answer, that what you are going to write in 200 words or perhaps 150 words. 2014 में 20 क्वेश्चन थे, सारे क्वेश्चन जो है 20 या 25 क्वेश्चंस I think. So the question is that to what extent urban planning and culture of IVC provides input to present day urbanization? How you will structure? That's a very valid point. In fact, what we can in fact do is that we can provide some sort of compare and contrast with modern urbanization compared to Indus Valley civilization. So and that is actually a very good structure. So in the very first part, you have to talk about Indus Valley civilization as one of the earliest. थोड़ा सा आप तारीफ करोगे शुरू में. You will talk about Indus Valley civilization as an urban civilization, and then we will talk about some of the outstanding features of Indus Valley cities with some specific examples. Be more specific. For example, if you are saying planned settlement, throw names here and there. Talk about, for example, how there is so much investment into public infrastructure, right? We do not have these grand buildings just to showcase your power, things like that. And then try to compare this with modern urbanization. And you can actually highlight here, without offending anyone, that Indian urbanization in today's time is not better than what it was even more than 4,000 years ago in the subcontinent era. So especially you can contrast Indian urbanization in the term of that how our urbanization is not very planned, because there is so much migration which is happening. We do not plan this migration. That leads to emergence of so many issues, hygiene issues, sanitation issues, emergence of slums. You do not have proper investment into public infrastructure. All of those things which are present thousands of years ago. So you can, and finally you can conclude that we can learn things from Indus Valley civilization. That जो हमारा present day urbanization है, it can learn lot of things from Indus Valley civilization. So yes, we can compare the ठीक है, we are, however you can also talk about, let's say for example, some of the limitations. We are talking about much bigger population compared to what it was thousands of years ago. We have to cater to a much bigger population, which is a challenge. But again, the goal here is to have planned city, investment into public infrastructure, focus on sanitation, focus on hygiene, focus on water supply. All of those things जो है, that should be an inspiration for us in today's time compared to people of Indus Valley civilization. So frankly, it is not a very difficult question. Whatever information you already know, you just have to structure your answer in a way that you are inculcating this information in a properly structured manner, right? तो बीच में आप जब फीचर्स बताओगे, उसके बाद फिर फाइनली आप कंपेयर भी करोगे. कंपेयर एंड कंट्रास्ट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आपने फीचर बता के छोड़ दिया, नहीं मिलेंगे आपको मार्क्स. You have not understood the requirement of the question. So you have to actually also compare and contrast with present day urbanization. चंडीगढ़ का एग्जाम्पल ले सकते हो. That is a very valid point. Tanya has a point. We will discuss about features of urban planning, streets, houses, town planning, water drainage, storage system, investment in public infra, then compare it with today's urbanization. Conclude with IVC was more urbanized than modern. That is a very, very fine structure. If you are maintaining that structure, that will be a very good answer. So try to answer this question. That can be your classroom assignment, today's classroom assignment, right? So isko answer karke dekho. Now the another question which Anusha has mentioned. Ancient civilization in Indian subcontinent differed from Egypt, Mesopotamia and Greece in that its culture and traditions have been preserved without a breakdown to the present day. Comment. Now I think there are two parts of this question. Chalo, you tell me that what will you write here? And I know that this is frankly not a very easy question. You can write it down. Although I think if we study ancient India, all the ancient India classes as well as art and culture classes, then it will make a lot of sense to answer this question. But even today, I am very sure that you can like write down few things, if not all of the points, but definitely few points. So the question is the ancient civilization in Indian subcontinent. The ancient civilization in Indian subcontinent. Indian subcontinent differed from those of Egypt, differed from those of Egypt, Mesopotamia, differed from those of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Greece. Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Greece, in that its culture and traditions, have been preserved without a breakdown to the present day. Have been preserved without a breakdown to the present day. Comment. Without a breakdown to the present day. Comment. कैसे करोगे आंसर इस क्वेश्चन को? And I will again repeat that I do feel like that if all of the classes of ancient India and also art and culture एक बार अगर हो जाए तो that is answering this question will be much more easier. But फिर भी what can be a very good structure here? Have you, like, do you know enough information about other civilizations that you will able to differentiate? So that is my point. A lot of times what happens is that this is not a question about you have to know information about Egyptian or Mesopotamian or Greek civilization. Without knowing this, because UPSC is also not expecting you to know that. Right? What you can, so for example, I do feel like that there are two parts of this question. The first part is saying that Indian civilization has survived while others have not. And you have to dedicate few lines that why is it so. Without going into details about what Egyptian civilization was, or what Mesopotamian civilization was, or what Greece civilization was. So you can have a very like general approach to this question. For example, why civilizations prosper and why civilizations perish. We can counter argument that even if you're talking about bricks and all, Egyptian civilization was like very advanced in that matter. Pyramids have survived thousands of years. So technological advancement of any, in fact, other civilizations was comparable to Indus Valley civilization. In some cases, it can also be superior. But okay, you can mention that as a like one of the points. So what I'm saying is that you can adopt a very general approach in the first part of the question, that why civilizations perish and why civilizations survive. So civilizations can perish because of many general reasons. For example, invasion from outside, right? Some invasion has occurred, because of that civilization has perished. Second, because of geography, because of climatic factors, civilization. For example, if let's for example, large scale earthquake occurs, or large scale flooding occurs for many years, or large scale drought occurs for many years, even then civilization will perish. Thankfully, so for example, India has been protected from invasion because of its geography, Indian Ocean, Himalaya, but we are vulnerable from northwest frontier. So from northwest frontier, lot of invasion has occurred. So we will talk about that. But a very interesting thing of Indian civilizational ethos is And that is where you can, like, for example, be more, I think, more innovative, that this culture of tolerance, that even though invaders have come to India, in time they gradually accepted civilizational ethos and they were integrated with Indian civilization, and that led to emergence of many new elements without losing much of the original elements of civilization. So you can talk about that. For example, Greeks invaded, Shakas invaded, Parthians invaded, Kushans invaded, Hunas invaded, Muslims invaded, but all of that invasion led to, so for example, even in medieval period you have this emergence of Indo-Islamic culture, which has its own distinct features from any other type of Islamic civilization of the world. So you are going to talk about that also, that this culture of tolerance has played a very, very important role, that our civilization has survived, and there is a continuity of lot of things. In second part, in fact, that is the main part, where you have to actually write down examples. Which are the things which have survived for thousands or hundreds of years. You can start as early as Indus Valley civilization. For example, somebody did mention use of swastika or phallus worship, right? You can talk about Vedic civilization, type of worship, यज्ञ अभी भी हम करते हैं, जो mantras हैं वो अभी भी हम use करते हैं, right? So you can talk about our religious ideas, our cultural ideas, our food habits, our clothing. All of those things, we do see a continuity here. You can also take features from medieval period. So a lot of practices which emerged in medieval period, even today they are very popular, right? In administration also. So you do not have to pick it only from Indus Valley civilization. You have to pick things from any period from ancient or medieval period which you think has survived even in current times. Write as many examples as you can from different domains. That will be a very good answer. So there is not one fixed answer to this question. The answer will be completely dependent upon how you are approaching this question and what type of examples you are using. Okay. So try to, again, I do not feel that abhi likhne ki zarat hai, but you definitely can write this answer once all the classes of ancient India is over. You definitely can pick up lot of stuff. We do find lot of changes definitely have occurred, but then there are elements of continuity also. That is also why we study history, to understand the continuity and changes, what has remained and what has changed. So what has remained, you can point out, you can actually point out a lot of things here. Anyways, Vedic age, that is our next topic. Give this heading, Vedic age. So let's first understand about Vedic age. Vedic age can be divided into two phases, early Vedic age and later Vedic age. Here now you have written records, you have written sources, but only one written source, that is Vedas, and all the associated Vedic literature. So Vedas, however, themselves are great work of philosophy, great work of religion. They are not exactly work of history, but Vedas are very useful to reconstruct history of Aryans, early Aryans, especially when they came to India, right? And historians use Vedas for this information. And frankly, we do not have any other record so that you can, let's say, for example, omit or include things. The next theme which I am going to discuss, for example, when I am going to talk about rise of Mahajanpads, that when Mahajanpads emerge, then you have other literature. Apart from Vedic literature or apart from Hindu literature, you also have Buddhist literature, Jain literature. So you have many written records. You can use all of those written records together to reconstruct history. So यहाँ पे एक limitation ये है that Vedic literature is the only literature, but the good thing is that archaeology does remain a very important source, but as written records, Vedas are very, very important source of information to know about various facets of early Aryans and how society evolved in the course of time. So Vedic age actually comprises of hundreds of years. It can be divided into two phases. The first phase will be, you do not have to write it right now, I will discuss करेंगे. So जो early Vedic age है, early Vedic age is from 1500 to 1100 BC, and later Vedic age is from about 1100 BC to 600 BC. So period of, again we are covering period of almost 1000 years as one theme. So it should be very clear that there will be lot of generalizations. We do not frankly know the exact type of interaction which led to emergence of culture. Lot of information हमारे पास नहीं है. तो हमारे पास general information है what we can decipher from Vedas and what we can decipher from archaeology, because 900 year बहुत बड़ा period होता है. 900 साल बहुत बड़ा period होता है. So anyways, early Vedic age basically coincides with writing of Rig Veda, which was the first Veda which was compiled, and later Vedic age जो है that coincides with writing of other three Vedas, Yajur, Sam and Atharva Ved, as well as many other parts of Vedic literature. So Vedic literature in itself is, frankly, it comprises of four things. All Vedas comprises of four things, right? So the first will be Samhita portion जिसको हम बोलते हैं. So Vedic literature, at the same time I should also tell you that Vedic literature जो है, it is a type of literature which is called Shruti. Now Shruti basically means that something which you have heard. Nobody knows that how it was compiled. Maybe sages were in some transcendental state, in some higher consciousness state, where they compiled these mantras. That is how Vedic tradition has evolved. So this is a type of literature which is called Shruti. Then you have another type of literature which is called Smriti. That you have, so Shruti is something which you have heard, Smriti something which you have learned. That you know who started it and how it has been propagated. So two types of literature, जो भी literature है, ancient Hindu literature, it can be divided into two categories, Shruti literature and Smriti literature. I will repeat, Shruti, something which you have heard. What it means is that it has always existed. Sages in their higher meditative state compiled this literature. Vedic literature is a very, very good example for that. And then you have Smriti, for example, Puranas or epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, Dharma Shastras, all of these are examples of Smriti literature. Now Rig Veda is the first Veda which was compiled, and because of that we use early Vedic age which coincides with Rig Veda. Now all Vedas have four parts. All Vedas, for example, the first part is called Samhita, which will have collection of hymns, right? Then Samhita will be explained in two phases. First phase is called Brahman, second phase is called Aranyak, and Brahman is not same as Brahman as a social classification. Very different. Brahman is a type of Vedic literature which tries to explain the hymn part of Samhita, and Aranyak further does it but in a different form. And the last part of Vedic literature, but perhaps the most important part, is Upanishad. That Upanishad talks about, a lot of philosophical discussion is present in Upanishad. It talks about some grand questions like the origin of universe, the nature of reality, the relationship between God and human beings. All of these grand philosophical questions are answered in Upanishad. So great work of literature, but how we use this work for historical development, that is a very, very challenging task. And historians have used, however, Vedas to know about what type of society, what type of economy, what type of polity we are talking about. So the very first question which you ask is that who exactly are Aryans? The Aryans जो है उनका identity क्या है? And जो identity है उसके फिर markers क्या है? What are the markers of this identity? So turns out, for example, let me show you on a map. Turns out that Aryans, in today's time, Aryan जो है is a word is used for a linguistic community. Aryan is not an ethnic term. And the reason is very simple, because Aryans spoke common languages. That of course goes without saying. But there is another reason, that the term Aryan has been misused a lot by many leaders, most important being Hitler. That Hitler used the term Aryans to consider a supreme race, a race which is supposed to govern all other races during World War II. And he in fact created a racial hierarchy where Aryans are at the top and Jews are at the bottom. And he started this entire Holocaust campaign that Jews need to be exterminated. Right? So because of that, the term Aryan is a very, very, like, it's a very politically sensitive term also. In India also it is politically sensitive, but for entirely different reason. I explained that this entire Aryan invasion versus Aryan migration, or even migration जो है वो सालों से चला आ रहा है या एक साथ हुआ था, इसको लेके काफी सारा डिबेट है. सो एनीवेज, सो दैट इज वाई अभी जो हम यूज करते हैं, आर्यन बेसिकली मीन्स a linguistic community, not an ethnic community, not a religious community, but a linguistic community which spoke common type of languages. These languages are called Indo-European languages. So a group of languages combinedly together, which is called Indo-European languages. A branch of Aryan community migrated towards India, and they originally shifted in the region of Punjab and Sindh around Indus River. And when they came around Indus River, they realized that Indus and its 5 tributaries and Saraswati, there are 7 rivers. So this region was called Sapta Sindhu. That, and around Sapta Sindhu, Ganga and Yamuna are not part of Sapta Sindhu. That should be very, very clear. So around Sapta Sindhu, tribes settled in this region. We have to assume that they may have interacted with local people. That interaction would have led to a lot of conflicts. And we do know about this conflict because Rig Veda mein, it talks about lot of wars with different tribes. Many of those tribes are Aryan tribes. So for example, Aryans is not one tribe. There are many tribes. And all of these tribes are fighting among themselves. But at the same time, they are also fighting with early settlers of subcontinent region. So we find lot of words like Dasa, Dasyu, Kirat, Kikat, Sumyu, Simyu. So ऐसे बहुत सारे terms हमको मिलते हैं. Many of those tribes we also find in Persian text. So we can assume that maybe these are early Aryan tribes and they are fighting among themselves. But then there are many terms which we only find in India. And maybe these are early settlers and there is some sort of conflict between Aryans and early settlers. Right? So ये जो है सबसे accepted theory है. That people, by the way, a branch of Aryans did migrate to European nations. And that is why there is a lot of genetic similarity, especially जो North Indians हैं, with lot of Europeans. That there is a genetic similarity. There is a genetic marker here. So population genetics does tell you that yes, there are similarities. In fact, in last few years, जो बहुत सारा research है of population genetics, that has actually answered a lot of questions that what type of migration pattern they actually adopted. And let me show you a study which was recently published, that how Aryans migrated to different part of the world. Now this map here is, so for example, you have India here. India is represented here. So you have India here. So Aryans, they may have in fact tribe of Aryans in Iran, around Iran, in Central Asia. Here also, branch of Aryans may have migrated to Europe. They have migrated to Russia, Ukraine also. Another branch of Aryans may have migrated. They came to what we call, जैसे for example, यहाँ पे अमू दारिया river के आसपास. Let me show you another map. In Amu Darya river, जो अभी हम थोड़ी देर पहले हमने डिस्कस किया था, there is a type of archaeological complex which exists, which is called Bactria Margiana Archaeological Complex. It is in Afghanistan, and this is a very important settlement that a lot of people lived in this area. So this is a very important archaeological site for historians. Now, the accepted theory is that Aryans did come in contact with BMSC, but they did not stay here for very long. After they stayed here for some time, but they shifted towards India. Maybe they did not like the climate, or for whatever reason, but they shifted towards India, and they shifted around Indus River, जो पंजाब और सिंध region है, and this land was called land of Sapta Sindhu. And from there, and by the way, a lot of developments occurred. These are tribal societies. You do not have any type of private property. You do not have well-established regional kingdoms. So for example, these are tribal units which are dwelling from one place to another place. In this process of dwelling, they also interact with many other type of people. That interaction may have led to conflict, but it also may have led to some sort of like cultural assimilation, like a lot of elements of culture of different section of people compared, and Aryans, it may have led to cultural assimilation. So, and by the way, Rig Veda, how old it is, that is a very, very difficult question to answer, because we do know that Vedas were propagated via oral tradition. So Rig Veda can be as old as, let's say, 3000 BC. But for India, we use Vedic age 1500 to 1100 BC. That Rig Veda finally was compiled much later, but it was the most important part of religious literature during early Vedic age, right? So anyways, this map, I've just witnessed this map, and this is frankly a very new map based on the population genetics, that Aryans did migrate to India. This is the most accepted theory. Now there is a group of scholars, many right-wing historians especially, they feel that Aryans may have original settlers into India, and from India they may have migrated to different part of the world. तो इसको लेके देखो, ये जो एक थ्योरी है, इसको लेके इतना ज़्यादा एक्सेप्टेंस इसलिए नहीं है बिकॉज अगर माइग्रेशन इंडिया से होता, आउटवर्ड माइग्रेशन अगर इंडिया से होता, तो उसका जो जेनेटिक मार्कर है वो बिल्कुल डिफरेंट होता कंपेयर टू व्हाट वी विटनेस राइट नाउ. सो दैट इज व्हाई द गुड थिंग अबाउट पॉपुलेशन जेनेटिक्स इज दैट इट डज नॉट डिपेंड अपॉन योर पर्सनल ओपिनियन, लाइक व्हाट यू वांट हिस्ट्री टू बी. एक होता है ना कि हिस्ट्री हम अपने हिसाब से लिखते हैं, हमको जो भी बढ़िया लग रहा है हम अपने हिसाब से हिस्ट्री लिखेंगे. सो व्हाट यू वांट हिस्ट्री टू बी, that is the good thing about population genetics, is that it in fact is a very important source to come to certain conclusions. However, one type of migration did occur out of India, but that was not migration of Aryans. A group of people who are known as gypsies. किसी ने सुना है term gypsy? A group of people known as gypsies who migrated out from India in around 5th or 6th century AD, not even BC. And they migrated first to Europe. From Europe, they also went to North America. So many of the gypsy communities even today settle in Europe and North America. And many of the people of gypsy community have been persecuted throughout the history because there have been allegations that they used to steal things. In fact, even during Nazi Holocaust, so Jews were sent to concentration camps, but gypsies were also sent to concentration camps. Homosexuals, disables, many people, type of people were sent to concentration camps for final solution. As per Nazi, it was a final solution that we have to exterminate all this set of people. So gypsies have been again persecuted throughout the history, and they are also called Roma people, by the way. So another term for gypsies is Roma. So out of India migration definitely did occur, but not of Aryans. Aryans came to India from outside. This is the most accepted theory. Perhaps in future we will find some other evidence, we will come to other conclusions, but as of now the most accepted theory is that Aryans may have started migrating around 2000 BC from out their home, jahan pe bhi they originated. Mainly they originated in Central Asian steppe, in Persian region, and from there they migrated to different part of the world. One part of Aryan tribe came to India and they are called Indo-Aryans. But despite that, there are some common features across all Aryan tribes. For example, what are those common features? And I will give you a few examples. जैसे worship of fire. Worship of fire is very popular in many Aryan tribes. जैसे many, there is a very famous religion which existed in ancient world. Right now, there are very few people who follow that religion. It is called Zoroastrianism. And Zoroastrianism are what Parsis follow. So Parsis who settled into India, Bombay में बहुत सारे Parsis हैं, they follow a religion called Zoroastrianism. Now Zoroastrianism का जो main deity है, Ahura Mazda, he is fire god, god of fire. And Zoroastrianism is very different from Abrahamic religion. So Abrahamic religion, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, they are monotheistic religion, they follow in one god. And in Abrahamic religion, the very interesting thing is that जो devil है या जो शैतान है, शैतान actually was an angel who was outcasted by God. So God is the supreme being and devil is actually creation of God who doubted God, and because of that God outcasted him. This is common across all three Abrahamic religions. But जो Zoroastrianism है, it believes in two major powers. One represents fire, one represents cold, and both of them are in eternal struggle. It is the responsibilities of the followers that they worship Ahura Mazda, so that fire god ultimately emerges victorious. And if you think that this is common to, you have heard it somewhere. So yes, it is the main plot of Game of Thrones, if somebody has watched that TV show. जो पूरा novel है, it is based on a song of ice and fire. So the main plot of Game of Thrones है, that is inspired from Zoroastrianism. So anyways, fire, Indra is the most important god in Rig Veda, but fire is the next most important god. Agni is the next most important god. Similarly, swastik is a common marker. That swastik is popular across many Aryan tribes. Use of horses, again popular across many Aryan tribes. Early use of iron, popular amongst many Aryan tribes. So these are some of the markers that we are talking about Aryan tribes. A very famous plant known as Som plant, plant of Som, very famous across all Aryan tribe. Later, what exactly Som is, इसको लेके बहुत सारा डिबेट है, but later Som becomes associated with intoxicating drink like भांग. तो जो सोम रस जो है उसको मदिरा के लिए बहुत बार हम सोम रस वर्ड यूज करते हैं. So the term Som is again popular across many Aryan tribes. So there are, and of course genetic markers are there. So write down few things here, whatever we have discussed. And I will continue this discussion about Aryan tribe. Write down the most important source, the most important source the most important source to know about Vedic age, to know about Vedic age is Vedas. Vedas. तो वेदा का जो रूट वर्ड है, दैट इज विद, कम्स फ्रॉम विद्या. सो इट लिटरली मीन्स टू नो, लाइक नॉलेज इज द रूट वर्ड ऑफ वेदा. इट कैन बी डिवाइडेड, राइट डाउन, Vedic age can be divided into two parts. Early Vedic age, इसमें एक लाइन लिख लेना along with the timeline. At some places you will find 1500 to 1000 BC and 1000 to 500 BC. ठीक है, that is also fine. But this is the most accepted classification. Early Vedic age, write down in one line. It coincides with compilation of Samhita portion of Rig Veda. It coincides with compilation of Samhita portion of Rig Veda. And second is later Vedic age. हाँ जी. B, if I am mentioning, okay, ठीक है, ये I think ये हमेशा confusion क्यों रहता है? There are three classifications. Two classification जो है, I can either use BC or BCE, and so that is before 0 AD, and I can use either AD or CE. So when I use BCE, I mean before Common Era. When I use CE, I use Common Era. Right? So before this classification of BCE and CE, the most popular classification was BC and AD. Now BC and AD is basically, BC means before Christ and AD means Anno Domini. Before Christ is when the year Christ was born, that is year 0. Before that you go to before Christ era. AD is Anno Domini, basically means the age of God, the age of domain of God. Right? So a lot of scholars felt that क्रिश्चियनिटी को इतना ज़्यादा एम्फेसाइज कर रखा है, तो फिर हमको ये यूज़ करना चाहिए, बिफोर कॉमन एरा और सी कॉमन एरा यूज़ करना चाहिए. बट द काउंटर आर्ग्यूमेंट ऑफ दिस इज दैट वाई डू यू यूज सी एंड बी सी. अगर आप कर रहे हो तो कम से कम यहाँ पे तो क्लियर है बीसी और एडी में कि वाई वी आर यूजिंग इट. हिस्टोरिसिटी इज वेरी क्लियर. सी और बीसी में तो क्लियर भी नहीं है, एंड यू आर इन फैक्ट गिविंग एक्स्ट्रा एम्फेसिस नाउ that the birth of Christ is common era and before common era. So there is a lot of debate, doesn't matter. We are going to use BC and AD. Okay, this is the most famous, most accepted term. There is nothing wrong with it. So if you are looking at BCE, it means before Common Era. If you are looking at BC, it means before Christ. So that should be very clear. Anyways, late Vedic age, या later Vedic age, 1100 to 600 BC. It coincides with compilation of other three Vedas, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved and Atharva Ved. Yajur Ved, Sam Ved and Atharva Ved. It also includes Samhita, it also includes Brahman, Aranyak and Upanishad of Rig Veda. It also includes Brahman, Aranyak and Upanishad of Rig Veda. In fact, just to make it clear, आप अगले लाइन में लिख सकते हो, Vedas can be divided into, या Vedic literature can be divided into 4 parts. Vedic literature can be divided into 4 parts. संहिता, एक लाइन में लिख लेना यहां पे, collection of hymns, संहिता, Brahman, write down in one line, a prose explanation of Samhita portion, a prose explanation of Samhita portion, and explanation of sacrificial rituals. Explanation of third is Aranyak. It literally means forest book. Aranyak, एक लाइन में आप लिख सकते हो, it interprets rituals in a symbolic and philosophical way. It interprets rituals in a symbolic and philosophical way. It interprets rituals in a symbolic and philosophical way. And last is Upanishads. Now there are as many as 108 Upanishads. 13 of them are considered major Upanishads. तो आप एक लाइन में बस लिख लेना. These are Upanishads contain philosophical ideas. Upanishads contain philosophical ideas about sacrifices, the body, the Atman and universe. Atman and universe. अब जैसे देखो ऋग वेदा in itself is comprised of 10 books and these books are called mandalas. So जो ऋग वेदा के books हैं these are called mandalas. Lot of times you'll find you'll go to some temples and temples के जो priest होंगे they often has this title of Mandaleshwar. So Mandaleshwar जो title है that actually signifies that they are scholars of Vedas. So ऋग वेदा in itself can be divided into 10 mandalas. However जो book 1 and 10 है जो mandala 1 and 10 है that was added later. How do we know that? यहाँ पे linguistic analysis is very very useful. So linguistic analysis can tell you a lot about historical development. So for example, what type of words which are being used in first and 10th mandala is different compared to what it has been used in other mandalas. So type of prose, type of choice of words, all of those things are part of linguistic analysis. So it does tell you that the first and 10th mandala hai, they were added later, and this in fact is very very significant because जो पूरा concept of varna system है, that entire society is divided into 4 varnas and 4-fold classification that was added in 10th mandala, which was added much later. So even in early Vedic age, even though in Vedic in Rig Veda itself there is a shukta called Purush Shukta. Purush Shukta talks about sacrifice of Purush. Now Purush is a cosmic being basically, it's a very abstract idea, a cosmic being which was sacrificed by gods, and that sacrifice led to creation of universe. And as part of this creation of 4-fold natural classification of social system emerged, Brahman, Rajan, Kshatriya and Shudra, right? But it is added in the 10th mandala, which was added the last. So even in early Vedic age, जो पूरा concept of Varna system है, that emerged at the end of early Vedic age, not in the starting of early Vedic age. And in later Vedic age, of course, the Varna system solidifies, and जो पूरा idea of social classification, lack of mobility, ये सारी चीजें जो है वो काफी popular होती हैं. So anyways, we will talk about this. But give the next heading, identity of Indo-Aryans. Identity of Indo-Aryans. Identity of हाँ जी. So rather than focusing on actually एक टर्म होता है जिसको हम बोलते हैं कर्म कांड. So for example, what you आपको यज्ञ कराना है मान लो. So you have to like include all of those things. ये चीजें यहाँ से लेके आओ, ये मंत्र पढ़ो. So all of these are rituals, you have to do it. Aranyak इसको symbolic way में और philosophical way में interpret करेगा. That something has an entirely different meaning. जैसे for example, let's say marriage अगर हो रहा है, marriage में बहुत सारे rituals हैं जिनका बहुत entirely जैसे 7 फेरे क्यों हैं. So 7 फेरेज are these rituals, but इसका actual meaning क्या है, जो इसका significance क्या है. So that will be part of, again that is, I'm not saying that it is part of Veda, that is just an example. That any type of rituals, what are the philosophical significance of these rituals, that will be part of Aranyak. हाँ जी. On Harappa? Which slide? I have the slide. I've like a seal contains swastika symbol. I have not come across. I don't think so. Okay, ठीक है. I will also check that. But I don't think so. So anyways, write down few things here. The term Aryan is a linguistic term. The term Aryan is a linguistic term. Is a linguistic term, and it denotes people who spoke similar languages. It denotes people who spoke similar languages. They roamed around, write down, Aryans roamed around in Central Asian steppe. Aryans roamed around in Central Asian steppe and migrated to different parts of the world. Central Asian steppe. Steppe basically means grassland. So Central Asian region which is grassland, it is called steppe. It can be pronounced steppe also. Central Asian steppe, it is a grassland. They roamed around in Central Asian steppe. A part of tribe migrated to India, known as Indo-Aryans. A part of or a section of tribe migrated towards India, known as Indo-Aryans. और दिस इज ज़ोरोस्ट्रियंस का जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बुक है, दैट इज ज़ेन द अवेस्ता. And Zen, the Avesta and Rig Veda have lot of similarities. So it does tell you regarding this migration that people in the region of Persia and Aryans in ancient world, they may have been the same set of people. Anyways, write down the next bullet point. Aryans domesticated horses. Aryans domesticated horses. Aryans domesticated horses and used spoked wheels. Used spoked wheels. Used spoked wheels. Now this is also very interesting. जो स्पोक्ड व्हील्स का पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट है, एंड इट इज ऑल्सो डिबेटेबल. किसी ने रिसेंटली यूट्यूब पे कोई ऐड देखा है या डिस्कवरी पे एक सीक्रेट ऑफ सिनोली करके देखा है आपने डॉक्यूमेंट्री? किसी ने अगर डॉक्यूमेंट्री देखा है, अगर ऐड आता है कि मनोज वाजपेयी का इतिहास को दबाया गया, कुचला गया, ऐसे कुछ करके ऐड आपको दिखेगा, राइट? सो दैट इज सीक्रेट ऑफ सिनोली करके. सो सिनोली इज अ प्लेस इन उत्तर प्रदेश, एंड सिनोली में बहुत सारे एक्सकेवेशंस काफ़ी सालों से चल रहे हैं. And in Sinoli, you have found these wheels which can be interpreted as spoked wheels. However, these findings belong to Harappan period. They do not belong to Vedic age. So the theory is, why this controversy has erupted over Sinoli. The theory is that ये जो पूरा idea है that Aryans migrated around, they started migration around 2000 BC and arrived to India in 1500 BC, is not true, because one of the important marker of Aryans is that before Aryans people used solid wheels. They did not use spoked wheels. Spoked wheels very simple, like spoked wheels. So ये जो spoked wheel का use है, that signifies coming of Aryans. Before that जो wheels हैं, they are solid. These are solid wheels. So the controversy erupted that Sinoli में whatever you have found can be considered as a spoked wheel. And because of that, this entire idea that Aryans migrated from outside is not a very valid idea, right? So I will just tell you two things. जो documentary is, for example, how a discipline evolves. There is a way how a discipline evolves. Whatever findings, it needs to be published into respected research papers. Those research papers will be peer reviewed by other scholars. Other scholars are going to opine that what do they think of, what is their criticism, what is their level of acceptance. If there is a higher level of acceptance, it gradually becomes part of discipline. So the only thing I will comment on this matter here is that Sinoli ke jo excavations hain, they are recently, they are quite new, and coming to conclusions based on archaeological findings will be, as of now, it will be like taking a leap here. It will be taking a jump without certain conclusions. So, जो Sinoli के excavations हैं, so for example, a lot of historians have pointed out that these are actually not spoked wheels, these are solid wheels. Spoked wheels है नहीं. अब ये exactly which side this debate goes to, we have to wait and watch. That is the only thing we will say. That we have found carts, and some archaeologists believe that these carts actually are spoked wheel, not solid wheels. So this is a recent development which has occurred. Even though Sinoli is a very old site, काफी सालों से excavation चल रहा है, but this discovery is quite recent, that where spoked wheel have been found. So anyways, One of the marker of Aryans is that they used spoked wheel chariots. इससे पहले जो भी vehicles थे, carts थे, they used solid wheel. And domestication of horse, of course, is a very, very important marker. Next. Weapon in the sense? So bow and arrow is, of course, the most important weapon used by Aryans. Next, cult of fire and cult of Som. Cult of fire and cult of Som are prevalent across many Aryan tribes. Across many Aryan tribes. Horse was the most important animal. Horse was the most important animal. Most important animal. For example, the term Ashwa is mentioned most of the time in Rig Veda. The term Ashwa is mentioned most of the time in Rig Veda. Followed by cow. Followed by cow. They used birch to write manuscripts. So birch tree का जो छाल होगा basically, that will be used to write manuscripts. So they used birch to write manuscripts. Animal sacrifices were prevalent. Animal sacrifices were prevalent. Animal sacrifices were prevalent, especially of horses. Especially of horses. So actually that is a very valid point. I actually did confirm. So swastika is pre-Aryan. So swastika as a symbol, in fact swastika as a symbol is found across many civilizations and it is pre-Aryan. It at some places it goes as back to like 10,000 years. Right? We have evidence of swastika found even like thousands of years ago. Hanji. So like when am I saying that importance का मतलब ये नहीं कि sacrifice नहीं होंगे. So important animal का मतलब ये है कि they are the most coveted animals. They are the most, for example, especially in warfare, because tribes often fought among each other. And tribes which had largest number of horses, they often emerged victorious. So that is why they are significant. But sacrifice is actually a religious, इसका जो है पूरा religious significance है. So just because something is very important does not mean it cannot be sacrificed. In fact, there is a higher chance that it will be sacrificed. So that is across many tribes, that something which was given a lot of significance, often it was sacrificed. So this, especially जैसे अश्वमेध यज्ञ, I'm going to talk about this concept of अश्वमेध यज्ञ. So अश्वमेध यज्ञ का जो end होता था, especially in early Vedic age and even in later Vedic age, that at the end the horse was sacrificed, right? So anyways, give the heading early Vedic age. Aryans, Indo-Aryans settled around Indus and its tributaries. Indo-Aryans, write down in bullet points. Indo-Aryans settled around Indus and its tributaries. Indus and its tributaries, and Saraswati River, and Saraswati River. This land was called Sapt Sindhu. This land was called Sapt Sindhu. These 7 rivers included, the 7 rivers included Indus, which is known as Sindhu. In fact, the word Hindu comes from the word Sindhu. In Hindu जो word है, in earliest Persian inscriptions we find Hindu as a word for everyone who lives beyond Indus River. Right? So, Indus, Sindhu. Next, Jhelum. Jhelum is called Vitasta. Chenab. Chenab is called Asikni River. Asikni. Ravi River. Ravi is called Parushni. Beas. Beas River is called Vipah. And Satluj. Satluj is called Sutudri. And Saraswati is called as Saraswati. So 7 rivers known by different names, especially इसमें जो रावी रिवर है बहुत important है because at the bank of Ravi River a war among 10 tribes occurred. That war is very famously known as Battle of Das Ragya. The 10 tribes, 5 of them are Aryan tribes, 5 of them are non-Aryan tribes, and they fought among each other. And जो Bharat tribe है that emerged victorious. So you can write down in next bullet point. In Rig Veda, as many as 30 tribes are mentioned. In Rig Veda, as many as 30 tribes are mentioned. Anyone who has interest in mythology like Mahabharata especially, right? You remember the name of Krishna Kronch, Shankh जो कृष्ण का है? Panchjanya, right? So Panchjanya is a term actually comes from Rig Veda. So there are 30 tribes, but 5 tribes are the most important tribes, which are called Panchjana. So Panchjana as a term emerges from Rig Veda. Write down 5 tribes collectively known as Panchjana. 5 tribes collectively known as Panchjana. अब ब्रैकेट में लिख सकते हो यदु, तुर्वशा, पुरु, अनु and Dhruviyu. Are considered the most important tribes. But जो सबसे dominant tribe है, by the way, one of the dominant tribe is Puru and another dominant tribe is Bharat tribe. And Bharat tribe is the tribe after which the name Bharat comes from. So Bharat, Dhruviyu. So जो Bharat tribes हैं, after Bharat tribes the term Bharat and Bharatvarsh becomes very important. So for example, you have a Puru, you have like various names of Puru king, जैसे there is a king named Diodasa, then you have Bharata king. So for example, जो battle of Dasragya है, जो Dasragya war है, that was fought among 10 tribes. In this war, finally, Bharat tribe emerged victorious and it became the most important tribe. And Bharat and Puru, by the way, Puru is very important, and Puru fought with Bharat. But after the war, Bharat and Puru entered into some sort of alliance, and that alliance was called Kuru. And if you are wondering, this is same Kuru which is also mentioned in Mahabharata as Kuru Vansh. जो पूरा term है Kuru Vansh जो है, that comes from this alliance of Bharat tribe and Puru tribe known as Kuru. So you can write it down. A Puru king named Trasdasyu, a Puru king named Trasdasyu, and a Bharat king named Diodasa, a Bharat king named Diodasa are mentioned. Diodasa are mentioned. Battle of 10 kings, write down in next bullet point. Battle of 10 kings is mentioned in Rig Veda. Battle of 10 kings. Very popularly known as Dasragya war. Not Dasrajan, this is Dasragya. Gya, Yarala, Chhatragya. So battle of 10 kings is mentioned in Rig Veda. In this battle, Bharat chief Sudas emerged victorious. Bharat chief Sudas emerged victorious, who was grandson of Diodasa, in which Bharat chief Sudas emerged victorious. Grandson of Diodasa. Rig Veda, write down, also mentions many conflict with Dasa and Dasyu. Rig Veda also mentions many conflicts with Dasa and Dasyu. Dasa and Dasyu. I should tell you here only, who are Dasa and Dasyu? There is a lot of debate surrounding that. So initially, historians believed that Dasa and Dasyu are early settlers, and Dasa and Dasyus finally they were defeated. And in fact, these Dasas and Dasyus became Shudras, जो fourth varna hai. So that is a theory, and that may have been true. That may have been true. That this part is still true. That maybe the tribes which were defeated, they may have become slaves initially, and later acceptance of them into this fourfold classification that they are at the service of other three varnas, they may have become Shudras. But Dasa and Dasyu जो अभी जो सबसे accepted theory ये है that they are not, they are in fact they belong to some early Aryan tribe. ऐसा नहीं है कि they are early settlers or people of Harappa, because the term both Dasa and Dasyu are mentioned in many other texts. Apart from Rig Veda, it is also mentioned in Persian texts. So maybe they are early Aryan tribes, and what it signifies that Aryan tribes themselves are fighting among each other apart from conflict with early settlers, right? So न्यू एनसीईआरटी पढ़ोगे तो दास एंड दासियों को इंटरचेंजेबली यूज कर रखा है कि दास एंड दासियों आर सेम. इफ यू रीड आर शर्मा विल मेंशन दैट दासा जो है दीज आर अर्ली सेटलर्स, दासियू जो टर्म है दैट इज ऑल्सो प्रेजेंट इन पर्शियन टेक्स्ट. इफ यू रीड रुपिंदर सिंह, शी मेंशंस दैट बोथ दासा एंड दासियू आर मेंशन्ड इन पर्शियन टेक्स्ट. सो दे मे हैव बीन अर्ली आर्यन ट्राइब themselves, but because tribes are fighting among each other, and in this fight, Dasas and Dasyus were defeated by other tribes, and they may have been become early Shudras, जो पूरा का concept of social classification है. In next bullet point, Simyu and Kikat are also enemies of Arya. Simu and Kikat are also enemies of Arya. Simu and Kikat are also enemies of Arya. So by the way, जो बैटल ऑफ दास रज्ञ है दैट हैपेंड ऑन द रिवर परुष्णी, उसको ब्रैकेट में अब लिख लेना कहीं पे. This battle of 10 kings, Das Rajya war, it happened at the banks of river Parushni, Ravi river basically. Write down next bullet point. Bharat joined hands with Puru. Bharat joined hands with Puru. A new alliance emerged. A new alliance emerged, which was called Kuru. Which was called Kuru. Kuru in collaboration with Panchals. Kuru in collaboration with Panchals remained the most powerful tribes for many centuries. Remained the most powerful tribe for centuries. Remained the most powerful tribe from centuries. Sorry? बाद में किंगडम हो जाएंगे. अभी जो मैं यूज कर रहा हूं वर्ड, जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल द रीजन यू आर मेंशनिंग इज बिकॉज देयर इज पंचाल किंगडम, राइट, इन महाभारत. सो इनिशियली दीज आर ट्राइब्स, कुरु, पंचाल, ऑल ऑफ देम आर ट्राइब्स, बट लेटर पंचाल डज बिकम अ किंगडम. किंगडम का भी कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है अभी जो है. दीज आर ड्वेलिंग यूनिट्स. You do not have established yourself at one geographical territory. You are moving from one place to another place. Land as a private property as a concept अभी तक emerge हुआ नहीं है. So अभी तक kingdom का concept नहीं है. अभी जो concept है वो tribal chiefdom का है. That it is a tribal society and there is a tribal chiefdom. Later, tribes started settling themselves into smaller territory and those smaller territories gradually became larger and larger. And that led to first kingdoms which are called Janpads. And some of those Janpads became much larger, which became Mahajanpads, which we'll talk about in the next class. Write down. Give the heading. Economy. I'm talking about economy of early Vedic age. So economy of early Vedic age is very clear. Okay, I have two questions. Again, please send your question to classroom coordinator. Saraswati ka jo remnant hai, that is Ghagra Hakkar river, that is correct. Vanna is saying that isn't Saraswati called Ghagra. So yes, Ghagra Hakkar river jo abhi exist karta hai, that is a remnant of Saraswati. Just a second. There is a doubt by Sharmishta that Dasas were non-Aryan people, then how come leaders from Aryan tribes like Bharat called Diyodasa? I do not know that. I do not know answer to that question. कि Diyodasa and Dasa, वो Dasa same है. Diyodasa हो सकता है एक नाम हो, coincidence हो कि Diyodasa tribe है. And I also told you that there is a very good chance that Dasa and Dasyus themselves are Aryan tribes, but they settled earlier compared to later tribes. Who are Simu and Kikat? We do not have a lot of information about that. Vedant has a question, kindly elaborate about Simu and Kikat. We do not know this information. We just know that they are considered enemies of Arya. So they may have been non-Aryan tribes. Aryans are in conflict with Simu and Kikat. Who exactly are Simu and Kikat? We do not have this information. Hanji. हड़प्पन, थोड़ा सा जोर से बोलना. हड़प्पन civilization started drying up. तो ड्राइंग अप जो है, रिवर ड्राइंग अप ऐसा नहीं होता है कि वो अचानक से हो जाता है. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट अ प्रॉपर इकोसिस्टम. सो अ प्रॉपर इकोसिस्टम एंड स्पेशली रिवर एज एन इकोसिस्टम ड्राइंग अप विल टेक many years. hundreds of years in fact. So Saraswati का जो drying up है, and more than drying up of Saraswati, because of drought, that may have contributed to decline of agriculture. But we cannot assume that Saraswati had completely dried up when Harappan civilization perished. Saraswati definitely existed, because in fact Saraswati is one of the main goddesses in later Vedas. Saraswati is a very very important goddess in later Vedas along with many other goddesses. So Saraswati जो river है बहुत important है for Aryan tribes. Anyways, the most important economic activity was cattle rearing, even though agriculture was known. That is the only thing you need to know. That agriculture is known, but the most important economic activity is animal husbandry. In later Vedic age that changes. Agriculture becomes more prominent, animal husbandry becomes less prominent. In fact, most of the wars people fought among each other was for cattle. And इसका best example जो है वो ये है कि the term for war in Rig Veda is Gavishthi, and Gavishthi emerges from this word go, that is cow. So it is a war over cows. So people fought wars for cows, and because of that lot of words, in fact cow is the second most important animal, because lot of words are originating from go, Gopati, Gavishthi, बहुत सारे words हैं ऐसे. Sorry? Godavari. I do not know about Godavari. I do not know about Godavari, but there are a lot of words which emerges from the term go. हाँ जी. तो please, I'm so sorry, but थोड़ा सा आप जोर से बोलेंगे क्या? किसका नॉलेज हो, सॉरी? हाँ, क्योंकि आयरन तब तक ऐसे डिस्कवर हुआ नहीं था. आयरन एज ए एलिमेंट अर्थ पे ऐसे नहीं मिलता. आयरन एज एन एलिमेंट कम्स फ्रॉम मीटियोराइट्स, एंड आयरन इज फाउंड इन माइंस. आयरन ऐसा तो है नहीं कैसे ही मिल जाएगा आपको. तो जो आयरन का, अगेन आयरन वाज नॉट डिस्कवर्ड बिकॉज, अगेन मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूँ ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है. इट्स सिंपल, द आंसर इज वेरी सिंपल. मे बी आयरन माइंस वर नॉट डिस्कवर्ड बाय दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. And how do we know that? Because we do not find any iron related objects in Harappan civilization. Even if there is, it is only an accidental presence in a very very small amount. But in Vedic age, use of iron, proper iron based weapons or iron based equipments, let's say for agriculture, they are very prominent. So we have to assume that they have discovered iron mines and they are using iron on a much larger scale. You understand the difference? So ये इसलिए हो सकता है बिकॉज हो सकता है कि आयरन माइंस जो है इनको पता नहीं थे. आयरन माइंस, बट आर्यंस वर एबल टू डिस्कवर, दे न्यू द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ आयरन एंड दे डिड इन्वेस्ट इनटू. In fact, in next class I'm going to talk about Magad, emergence of Magad as the most powerful Mahajanpad. And one of the most important reasons why Magad became very powerful is that because they found iron mines near Chota Nagpur Plateau, which right now lie in Jharkhand. And that iron played a very important role for clearing forest area for agriculture as well as for weaponry during warfare. So iron plays a very very important role in Vedic age, especially in later Vedic age and Mahajanpad age. Even in early Vedic age, iron is not that prevalent. Iron is there, but there is accidental presence. But iron is known to Aryan tribes, that is true. Iron as a word, there is a word for iron in Vedas, which is called Shyamask. That a metal which has Shyam color, like grey color, जो पूरा जो एक ये है. So Shyamask हम ऋग वेदा में यूज होता है आयरन के लिए. So iron is a very important element, but we have to assume that people of Harappa, they did not had discovered iron mines, and because of that iron is not prevalent during Harappan period. Okay? अच्छा. Sorry? Regular? ऋग्वेद आर्यंस ने लिखा था, हमको यही एज्यूम करना पड़ेगा. ओके, तो हमने एक पॉइंट हमने लिखा था कि जो ऋग वेदा और द रीजन व्हाई वी बिलीव आर्यंस केम फ्रॉम आउटसाइड, तो पॉपुलेशन जेनेटिक्स इज द अगेन बेस्ट आंसर टू दैट. बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, जैसे हमने एक एग्जांपल क्या लिखा था कि वी फाइंड लॉट ऑफ सिमिलैरिटीज between Rig Veda and Zendavesta, which is a Persian text, right? But इसका मतलब ये नहीं है. So Rig Veda of course was compiled after settling into, significant part of Rig Veda was compiled after settling into India, and because of that जो Indian features हैं they are prominently covered in Rig Veda. इसमें कोई doubt ही नहीं है. But at the same time there are many similarities with other things, and that is the reason why we assume that they came from outside. Is that clear? राइट तो ये कह देना जैसे बिकॉज कि बाहर से आए होते तो बाहर की चीजें होती, तो बाहर की चीजें तो हैं ही. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, जैसे टाइगर इज नॉट मेंशन्ड, राइनोसरस इज नॉट मेंशन्ड. ये जो एनिमल्स हैं दीज आर नॉट मेंशन्ड इन ऋग्वेदा. हॉर्सेज आर मेंशन्ड, काउज आर मेंशन्ड. सो दीज आर एग्जांपल्स ऑफ लिंग्विस्टिक एनालिसिस which signifies that they may have come from outside. हाँ जी, अभी मैंने क्या बोला, पॉपुलेशन जेनेटिक्स इज अ साइंटिफिक प्रूफ. पॉपुलेशन जेनेटिक्स तो साइंटिफिक प्रूफ है, वो तो प्रॉपर एक साइंटिफिक एक्सप्लेनेशन है. सो ये जो बाकी के जो भी थ्योरीज हैं दैट दे केम फ्रॉम आउटसाइड, दीज आर बेस्ड ऑन जो भी इनडायरेक्ट एविडेंसेस होते हैं. बट पॉपुलेशन जेनेटिक्स इज अ वेरी मच साइंटिफिक प्रूफ दैट दे मे हैव माइग्रेटेड. अगेन I will end this discussion. I know that this is a political topic. I know that lot of political sensitivity is associated with this topic. I will end this discussion that this debate is not over, right? However, most of the evidence points out that Aryans came from outside, right? And we should be willing to accept different ideas. This is my only point, that the most evidence suggests that they came from outside. However, I told you in future you will find some other evidence perhaps. You should be willing to change your opinion at that point of time also. So we do not have to pick data depending upon what type of things we want to exist. We have to use data, and based on data we have to form our opinion. ऐसा नहीं कि पहले opinion form कर लिया फिर हम data खोज रहे हैं. तो if I'm saying this that Aryans came from outside, I am saying this because and scholars belonging to different domains, different disciplines have come to this conclusion, and I will try to accept what scholars are trying to say. Okay? So ये एक बड़ा important चीज़ है कि जो experts हैं उनकी बात सुनना ज़रूरी है. They know more than us. So both historians and not only historians, archaeologists as well as geneticists, they have come to similar type of conclusion. So I will tend to believe in those conclusions. But at the same time, again, I'm willing to change my opinion. Anyone should be willing to change their opinion if there is proof otherwise. Is that clear? Okay. Write down a few things here. Aryans used animal rearing. Aryans used animal rearing as major economic activity. As major economic activity, even though advanced knowledge of agriculture existed. Even though advanced knowledge of agriculture existed. Most of the wars, इसी में लिख लेना, most of the wars were fought over cows. Most of the wars were fought over cows. Fought over cows. A very popular term for war is Gavishti. A very popular term for war is Gavishti. Write down next bullet point. Land did not form a well-established type of private property. Land did not form a well-established type of private property. Land did not form a well-established type of private property. जैसे दिस पर्टिकुलर पीस ऑफ लैंड बिलोंग्स टू मी, ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, ये भी हम ये मान के चलते हैं बिकॉज लैंड एज अ प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी इतना ज़्यादा हमारा इंटीग्रल पार्ट है हमारी सोसाइटी का कि हमको लगता है कि हमेशा ऐसे ही रहेगा, बट ऐसा था नहीं. सो पीपल सेटल्ड इन वन एरिया, दे ट्राई टू एग्जॉस्ट दोज रिसोर्सेज, बट देन दे सेटल टू अनदर एरिया. सो लैंड, वन पर्टिकुलर पीस ऑफ लैंड बिलोंग्स टू वन पर्टिकुलर ट्राइब. उसमें भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें होंगी. इवन व्हेन लैंड इज established एज अ प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी, लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल a group of people have established in one region, does ownership goes to an individual, to a family or to entire village? इसमें भी बहुत सारा वो है. At for example, we do find that in ancient period, a lot of time land ownership actually did not go to an individual. It actually went to the entire village, entire community, or a group of people together, rather than one, the land belonging to one private person. So ये जो पूरा एक खुद में एक evolution है, that how land emerges as a private property. Write down. Regular trade may have been missing. Regular trade may have been missing. May have been missing. Barter system was the main mode of exchange. Barter system was the main mode of exchange. Give the next heading polity. Okay, इसको भी समझ लेते पहले. What type of administration we are talking about? So it is a tribal chiefdom, and tribal chief is called Rajan. The word is Rajan here. Now Rajan is of course very powerful, but his power is not absolute and it is not arbitrary. The power of Rajan is limited by assemblies. And Rig Veda talks about various types of assemblies. You have Sabha, you have Samiti, and all of these assemblies may have played a very, very important role in administration. And Rajan was bound by the decisions taken by assembly. So ये सबसे पहली चीज. Second thing, that in these assemblies even women could participate. That does tell you higher status of women in the society. By the way, ये जो पूरा एक बार जैसे अगर हम normal हम term use करते हैं, that status of woman. Status of woman is a very abstract term, frankly. We have to ask some more concrete questions. For example, do they have access to property? Do they have access to education? Do they have access to resources? These are more relevant and frankly questions which can be answered rather than a very general point that what is the status of woman. So we do find that women could attain education. Women were very integral part of important tribal assemblies, and their decision was very, very important in early Vedic age. In fact, जो access to education है, in many Vedic sages, most of the Vedic sages are male, but you have female sages also, and there is a very popular term for it which is called Brahmavadini, that you have many Brahmavadinis across many Vedic literature. For example, you have names like Gargi, Maitri, or Lopamudra. These are some of the examples of Brahmavadini. जैसे one of the most famous Upanishad is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Gargi enters into a debate with Yagyavalk, who is one of the most respected sage. And the story goes something like this, that the king of Videha, whose name is Janak, he has invited sages from all over the India for philosophical debate. And he basically gives a challenge that whoever wins this debate is going to get some gold coins, thousands of cows, and so on. And by hearing this, Yagyavalk asks one of his disciple that you collect all of those things. So other sages are furiated that you have assumed that you are going to emerge victorious. So finally a debate is organized, and in this debate most of the people do not want to debate with Yagyavalk. So few people start debating with him. Yagyavalk easily defeats them one by one until he meets Gargi. Now Gargi starts asking a lot of questions. She starts with nature of human beings, human character. Then she goes to ask questions about Atman. Then she goes to ask questions about universe. At one point of time, Yagyavalk is so infuriated by the line of questioning Gargi adopts that he threatens her that if you keep asking question like this, your head will explode because of all these complexities. And not he is going to do anything to her, your head will explode because of this complexity. So after that, Gargi changes her line of questioning. But at the end of debate, Gargi accepts that he is the most renowned person, he is the most learned person, and Yagyavalk does collect his prize. So ये जो पूरा conversation of Gargi and Yagyavalk है regarding different various aspects of philosophy, that is the central plot of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the most important Upanishad of Rig Veda, right? So it does tell you that women had access to education. In fact, not only normal simple education, but also education which can lead to them becoming Brahmavadini. However, there are few Brahmavadinis compared to the number of male sages, right? So write down few things here. The polity comprised of tribal chiefdom. The polity comprised of tribal chiefdom. Tribal chiefdom. With chief called Rajan. With chief called Rajan. The position of Rajan was hereditary. The position of Rajan was hereditary. The position of Rajan was hereditary, but his power was not absolute. His power was not absolute. Write down next bullet point. Tribal assemblies such as Sabha, Samiti, Vidhata. Tribal assemblies such as Sabha, Samiti, Vidhata played a very important role in administration. Played a very important role in administration. Sabha was an assembly of elites. Write down. Sabha was an assembly of elites. Assembly of elites. Samiti was assembly of people. Samiti was assembly of people. And Vidhata was assembly of the tribe. Vidhata was assembly of the tribe. Women could attend these assemblies. Women could attend these assemblies. Assemblies, especially Sabha and Vidhata. Especially Sabha and Vidhata. Write down next bullet point. Priests played a very important role in decision making. Priests played a very important role in decision making. Priests played a very important role in decision making. Two major priests are Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. Two major priests were Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. देखो वशिष्ठ एंड विश्वामित्र जो है इनका भी पर्सनल कैरेक्टर जो है बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग तरीके से मेंशन्ड है इन वैदिक लिटरेचर एज वेल एज इन लेटर पुराणास. वशिष्ठ एंड विश्वामित्र are very famous character of epics such as Mahabharata and Ramayana, many Puranas, but they are also mentioned as early as Rig Veda. So for example, Vasishtha is considered more conservative, Vishwamitra is more liberal. For example, Vishwamitra comes up with Gayatri Mantra, and Gayatri Mantra becomes a very important part of expansion of Aryan fold. So anyone who can recite Gayatri Mantra will become part of Aryan fold. Vishwamitra is much more conservative. He feels that Aryans and non-Aryans should be separated from each other. And Vishwamitra is much more liberal in that sense, right? Same thing is also popular in later Vedic age. However, in later Vedic age, we do find that Shudras and women do not have right to recite Gayatri Mantra. I will discuss that. Write down next bullet point. People offered Bali to Rajan. People offered Bali to Rajan. Now, Bali is some sort of tax that, let's say, for example, because Rajan is taking care of the administration, law and order, he is protecting his people. Rajan, along with his council of minister, this is Senani, is a very important post. So people offered Bali, but this Bali is voluntary. Write down. People offered Bali to Rajan, however, it was voluntary. Voluntary. Rajan did not maintain a standing army. Rajan did not maintain a standing army. Now what it means is that a dedicated branch, which is army, and उनका जो regular salary होगा, regular food होगा, वो king maintain करेगा. So for that you require huge amount of resources. So standing army either in early Vedic age or later Vedic age is not mentioned. But at the same time, if there is a war, if one tribe is going into war with another tribe, then it is duty of all the family members to send their male members, and male members will go to the warfare. And whatever they are going to loot from this war, that loot will be distributed among all the section of people. It will not be exactly equal distribution. For example, definitely more share will go to Rajan and chief, but it will be distributed among all of the tribe. This again is a contrast with later Vedic age, where most of the loot went to Rajan, priest, and जो भी ruling elites हैं उनके पास जाते हैं. जो normal population and normal tribes हैं, they were not given the share of war. So there are many contrasts between early Vedic age and later Vedic age. आप लिख सकते हो next bullet point. The loot of war was shared. The loot of war was shared among the entire tribe. Among the entire tribe. Let's end today's class here. In next class we will talk about some other features like religion क्या है, society कैसी है, and we will talk about later Vedic age. But जो important theme होगा next class का, that will be Mahajanpad. You guys have no patience. Important theme will be Mahajanpad. So I will see you guys in the next class.